And we're live. I kind of need an intro to this because I feel like every week I'm just like, yep, it's working. I didn't mess it up. Welcome to another edition of Between Two Services. This is our last test run. Hopefully, this is our last edition from Room 8. We're realizing that with our tech people, also needing to use this room, that what we're going to hopefully do is set up a temporary studio so that for the children's ministry, and also if we continue this ministry, we'll have another place to film and maybe can pretty it up a bit and then let all the magnificent tech people be in here working all of this magnificent equipment. It never gets old. It's all cool. Like, I swear, there's got to be someone else in the congregation, you know, who looks at all this and is like, "Ooh, I want to touch the buttons." And you can. You just have to come and be part of the tech team first, right? That's. So, see Ann, see Owen, see me. We'll get you set up. And then you can help us learn how to use all of this stuff. Well, we're here. This is Between Two Services, Low Sunday edition. Anyone want to guess our attendance at 8 a.m. this morning?
I'm guessing it goes on one hand.
It does. 5.
Okay. Well.
1 priest, 1 deacon, 2 lectors, 1 other
you
person.
counted yourself.
5. So,
How many did we have Christmas Eve?
So Christmas Eve, the ushers counted 59, but I think that was an undercount because we had some people in and out. And we had Teresa up here. So I put 60 in the book, which is interesting because one person said to me, well, this was the lowest Sunday Christmas Eve service I've ever been to. And I was like, this is the most people we've had in a church service since December of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we missed last year completely.
Yeah,
maybe since January of 2020, February of 2020, we probably had more than 60 people on one of those Sundays, but that was great. But also, I checked the book, and in December of 2019, that 11 o'clock service was only 68 for whatever reason. I don't know if it was weather that year. I can't remember back that far. It's all pre-COVID.
It was in the before time.
It's in the before time. But
well, back when we had 2 Christmas Eve services as well.
Right.
So
True.
People had options.
Yeah. So I was really pleased. The music was really great. And I thought maybe since we have both of you here, we could touch on how much work goes into a service like that for the choir and for the choir director. Just because, like, when you're sitting there, it's like, oh, this is magical.
Yeah.
It is when you're singing too.
It is when you're sitting.
I will say.
Yeah.
And I would just pipe up and say that, yeah, there's an incredible amount of rehearsal. And the preparation Owen puts in, I can't even begin to imagine. But every one of those rehearsals is fellowship.
Yeah.
Yes.
And is getting to hang out with some of my favorite people that I have so much in common with. Starting with, that we love to sing to the glory of our God.
Yeah.
And, that's a great place to start. And
Yeah.
from there, we have various politics and occupations and all that. But that's a wonderful place to start. And especially having not had the opportunity, I feel like we've all been on this huge social diet.
Yeah.
And this season is like a feast.
Yeah.
It is.
Because,
It really is.
all thanks to vaccinations and boosters and all that. And yeah, we're still masked, singing, and that's a pain, but it's a heck of a lot better than not singing
It is.
together.
It is.
So,
Well, and so you brought up a few interesting things there. So you said a good start is to sing to the glory of God. I feel that's our only start. That's our launching point. With choir, there is such a you hear choirs that perform a lot and travel together, and they always sing better because they are sharing intimate parts of their life together. And there's something about that. The King Singers are a really good example of this because they travel all over the world together their whole lives. You're pretty much, once you're in the King Singers, you're in the King Singers. And they have this symbiosis, and you hear it with families that sing together. If you listen to the Fun Traps, they have this amazing sound. So in a way, modern choral music is trying to get that same symbiotic response. And English choral music does this extremely well because you have men and boys traditions where they are together throughout the whole week and they're doing multiple services a week. So for us, on a normal year, not in COVID time, there's the challenge of how do we maximize our time together? How do we get the most music or polish our music the most, and at the same time maintain our personal relationships within an ensemble? It's difficult. I'll be the first one to say that it is easy to be about the work and not about the camaraderie, or on the opposite, to be all about the camaraderie and not about the work.
I've been in those choirs.
Yeah, and they both exist on a regular basis, and so it's a difficult balance. What complicates things a little bit more is in COVID time, we are so far apart, and even at our best in communicating in this time period, it's still not the same. So we had a real crash course of, here we all are together again. Oh, I missed you. Let's do some work. And it was just this quick ping pong of, what was so beautiful, Christmas Eve, we all kind of let it happen. And I kept saying to Lynn, God bless Lynn Vera. It's in God's hands. Amen. It's in God's hands now. And at a certain point for all of us, and professional choirs, they don't get to they don't get to serve it back to God as often as we do. But yeah, at a certain point, we've done all we can, and it is up to the Spirit. And that's what Christmas Eve was. So thanks be to God, the Spirit took over. But yeah.
It was a joy.
That was So now what's next for the choir? I think, are they singing today? Are we taking a break? What's next?
Yeah, this year, again, is unusual. So we're taking a break. I am going on retreat in early January to the Abbey of Gethsemane. If I could put in a quick plug, I've been there a few times, never been on retreat. They have 2 amazing pipe organs. They do Gregorian chant, and it's going to be rest and relaxation. I have a stack of books that I've been curating over the last few months of what I'm taking with me to the Abbey, and I probably won't read it at all.
What great timing, right after all of this.
So I just pray my reservation doesn't get canceled because of anything, but I'm very hopeful. So yeah, choir is on a break until January 20th, and then we will be preparing for the bishop's visit. So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
Sound good for the bishop. Quick plug for self-care, very important, right? And we are also totally when we met with Owen earlier this year to do kind of an informal evaluation, if such a thing exists, that was one of the things that I think the wardens and I were so happy to hear, was that you had actually planned time for a retreat. And we definitely, no complaints about no choir. I mean, we don't want to burn our people out. They're working really hard for us. So especially Owen.
Amen.
And so we'll miss you, but we're glad that you're taking care of yourself. And we hope you get the most out of that retreat you can. And we hope that our choir members also take time to kind of, recover from the busyness of this last season. And when we come back together ahead of the bishop's visit, it'll be all the more glorious. So
all systems go.
Yeah, indeed. Well, and a quick plug for the choir. This Christmas Eve service, I kept thinking, this is about exactly what we would do normally. We may have a few extra little things here and there.
Like the duckbills.
like the yeah, like that.
Thank
But-
God for those.
Yeah, thank God for that.
Indeed. But yeah, in terms of our normal liturgy and worship, I don't think we did not have to choose an alternate route. We just had to choose our main route carefully. So,
Mhm.
and I'm really glad.
I am too. I'm nervous, right? Because like you read the news all the time, and the news is all like, Omicron, and I'm like, well, what are the chances that after I go through 5 services this weekend,
Next.
someone's gonna call me up and be like, But on the flip side to that, I think life has to go on. I mean,
Mhm.
I've struggled tremendously with COVID and with long COVID, and I don't want to minimize it at all. But I also understand. I mean, this isn't the situation that we want to be in, but we couldn't stay in shutdown mode.
No.
Like, I mean, we just can't. And so we're doing the best we can. I think this investment in technology is good. I don't think it's ever going to replace the in-person service at all,
Hope
but
not.
No.
I think it's going to help us augment it and reach more people. And I mean, we had over 8,000 views on just our YouTube channel, just in the first 11 months of this year, 64,000 minutes of watch time. So,
Wow.
and that's without really trying. So like in 2022, with the new system in place and with a tech team, we can talk about how we can like even grow that reach. But even as awesome as that is, I'm really pleased, to see 60 people showing up and getting to worship together. And what I love personally is when you get, which I haven't experienced for a long time because it was really hard, especially when we were filming those services, because it's sort of like you film a part of it and then it's cut, and you film a part of it and it's cut, and you're worshiping, but you're also like
In and out.
In
Hot
and out.
Cold. Yeah.
I really felt on Christmas Eve I was almost in tears because it was like I'm in it. I'm fully worshiping.
Yeah.
It's that meditative. You're in the zone, and when you get into the zone, which for a lot of us we've been missing because it's been so hard.
Well, and all the music that we've been missing too, throughout all this time period. When we had the Magnificat Sunday, it felt like years since we had those lessons and sung the music to go with it. And it just was one of those I cried through that because it was such an odd a rejoining into something that was just like, wow, this is really special.
Well, all the other sensory experiences as well. This was the first time, Christmas Eve was the first time that I've been in a service with incense since COVID. And I'm always afraid that each time it's going to be the time my body decides it doesn't like incense.
Right.
But
Right.
hey,
Me too.
with the masks,
It was
I could
fun.
smell just enough, but not too much. And that was great. And the whole the scent thing, which we usually don't have. And then I will confess that sometimes I think the whole candlelight with Silent Night, after 60 years of it, sometimes it seems just a little bit corny. But this year, I have to say, I looked out through the nave, and then I looked up to the altar, and I was just struck
It was something.
with the beauty of it. It just pierced me to the soul.
Yeah.
And so it was such a fully immersive experience to be there, and that 60 people felt safe enough to come.
Yeah.
I think we're doing something right.
We're
We're
doing
doing
something
right.
a lot of it right, and I'm really proud to be part of it.
Well, that's a high level of trust as well. I
Mhm.
mean, we all trust each other to look after each other. And
Yeah.
I think that's been a big theme through all of this is we know each other. We know, we have to rely on one another. So
Yeah. Everybody's got very different circumstances that they come from, and
yes,
so
Yes.
we to be able to protect the most vulnerable and still be able to gather.
Yeah.
It's been a fine line, but
Definitely a
well.
fun one. I'm so glad you said that about Silent Night.
True confessions from in between the services.
I'm just like,
unpopular opinions.
I mean, I'm an Austrian scholar. I've been to the chapel where it was originally unveiled. It is a beautiful song. It is every year, though. I'm like, is this the year that we can finally do away with Candlelight Silent Night, right? Because it is a little corny. And every year it's like, no, if you do that, you're going to ruin Christmas. And so, okay.
Or is this the year we're going to set somebody's hair on fire?
Right.
Or
I keep waiting for that.
how much wax can you get out of the carpet? It's
Oh, I've seen that happen before.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, and I had someone I was following on social media make a joke about how, like, I don't know what other churches do, but like Baptists, we give kids fire. And they were talking about like the Candlelight Silent Night at their church. And I'm just like, hold the phone, Baptists.
Yeah.
Like we let our kids swing thuribles. There's charcoal in there.
Fires.
Come back.
flaming purses. Yeah, when Katherine went down the aisle and that thing was making the full revolution of that.
Yes. So kudos to Katherine Hart.
Mm-hmm.
She and what's really impressive is she can get that thurible going where there's smoke coming out of it and still it not fill up a whole space.
Right.
That is really impressive. People don't realize that once that thing gets going, it is going.
Yeah.
And you have to actively like move it and deal with its smoke once it's going. And she was on top.
Catherine's
a master
awesome.
flamethrower.
Yeah.
We need her to train some of our young people because, frankly, the last time they let me touch the thurible, the fire department came.
That's right.
Because I do not have that gift of managing the smoke.
Well,
I just got that thing going, and the next thing we know, it was like, oh, our fire alarm works.
Well, actually, if you're looking for another way to get more young people involved in the service, who would turn down getting to do that?
Right.
Right. That's true.
I dangle that as bait.
I'm just sitting here like, oh, we let our kids play with fire on Christmas Eve. We let our kids play with fire every service, right? We need our people are like, when do we get the torchbearers back? It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
Well, they have sticks with flammable oil inside.
Right. It's sort of like Molotov cocktail spears, right?
Yeah, we win.
It's like,
we win.
It's just sort of like oil-filled flaming javelins.
Yeah.
And that's we hand them to 10-year-olds.
Hey, what is it? Immersion by fire.
I know of another denomination that gives all of the children the battery-operated candles.
Ooh,
that is bad.
Well, when they have a whole children's choir up in front,
I bet it
and
is.
it does look cute, and I think it cuts down on the potential heart attacks from the parents who are like, don't drop. Yeah.
Well, and I've done community services before where they really wanted to have candlelight. This was in a previous community that I served, and we weren't technologically advanced to have the actual candles. It's when they had the votives that had the little fake flame coming out of the top.
Are they holding votives?
So they handed votives. So everybody's holding their votive. like their battery powered votive.
That actually sounds really cute.
Oh, it was strange. But because if you have a candle, you can hold music. But if you have this weird votive, there's this constant people just dropping.
Yeah, right.
Or both hands. It was very strange. But
it's
but yeah, again, one of these things that you experience over time because of the fire hazards.
This is amazing. Like, how many times can you almost burn down a church?
Oh yeah, the older and more flammable the church, the better.
Yeah. Like, and ours is great, right?
There was some impromptu caroling that went on in neighborhoods earlier this week.
Yes.
And so we might have borrowed some of the church candles, with the plastic thing. And we found if you're walking on old streets in Versailles and very uneven sidewalks, you have to hold the candle up here so it doesn't blind you. And I could only imagine how hilarious it was for the cars driving by. That here's like 5 or 6 people walking down the sidewalk, holding their flames aloft.
What protest are you on your way to?
Exactly. With some people wearing Christmas lights.
Right. Oh, that's adorable.
Well, and that's another great thing, like that COVID has brought back, because I've heard that like caroling as a congregational tradition really died out, but then last year, because it was outdoors, it was revived, and then this year it was revived. So that's, let's do it again next year.
That was so much fun. I do have to
That's
say.
good. That's good.
Yeah.
I have to say that I'm one of those music ministers that has a few traumatic stories from my childhood of caroling, where and granted it was very unorganized, so I tend to not put as much into that, but but hey, if it works, then that works. I just have stories of like it being unusually cold and and people being unusually willing to brave through it, which it was the most beautiful weather this year, so
I can remember going caroling in the Episcopal church that we were part of in Littleton, New Hampshire in the early 90s. That was fun. And then the only other memory of caroling that I have is it just kind of like being part of some Lutheran congregations where it was like, let's go sing off key to people in nursing homes. And I always love that because it's sort of like you've got a captive audience and they're mostly deaf.
Handy.
It's just sort of, it's just sort of, I've done that 3 or 4 times and it's just sort of, maybe we could organize this a little better, sound a little better, put a little bit more advanced work into it. But the caroling that I heard last year was lovely. And I'm sure it was lovely this year.
Oh, yeah. We came and caroled to you. I remember that. Yeah. My first experience caroling was I took French in high school. And our French teacher taught us a bunch of Christmas carols in French.
Oh, that's nice.
And then we went out and caroled in French.
Wow.
And we thought we were hot stuff.
That is hot stuff.
But most of the tunes would be somewhat familiar, but the people at the door would be like, the tune's familiar, but why can't I understand what you're saying?
Because it's French.
Yeah, but we thought we were really cool. It was very fun.
That is cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Just to tag team off of that, at Christmas time, you'll normally hear choirs do maybe 1 or 2 French carols, and then you'll hear an abundant, usually German carols.
Yeah.
German for a choir, for some reason, is much easier to grasp onto phonetically than French.
Yeah. I can see why.
Yeah, I never hesitate to put in a good German piece, but those French pieces, I save those.
But with the vowels at the end, and
Oh, and all the accents and all of the all the things that you see on page that you don't pronounce. Right. All that, and if you sing in college and everything, you learn International Phonetic Alphabet, so that even if you don't know French at all, you can just look at the International Phonetic, and nobody else knows that. And so it's almost worthless to try to use something like that. So, those are fun and challenging, and I don't do many, because I don't speak French very well or at all.
It's always my hot take that German is a prettier language than French. It is.
Too brute for singing. Sorry.
I love it too.
Wow, we didn't even talk about half the things that we thought we might, but we've had some good conversation, and we're right at 25 minutes. So I'm going to kind of unfortunately wrap this up with an invitation. If you haven't yet already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button. Also, if you have feedback about what we could do, has this ministry been useful for you? Does it kind of shine a different light on some of the leaders in our parish and what's going on, what we think about, and send me some feedback, because I've had fun doing Between Two Services. I've gotten to talk with some great leaders. Thank you to everyone who's come on. Thank you to Mary Katherine and Owen for this delightful conversation today. And we look forward to what comes next.